So in a few hours' time, President Zelensky of Ukraine and President Trump will be meeting at the White House. The big minerals deal is being touted as a game changer. Remember, this is coming in the backdrop of the first ever high-level contacts between the United States and Russia since this war began. And President Trump seems to be in a hurry to try and put an end to this war in Ukraine. It's been 3 years since this war began. Let's try and go across to one of the foremost scholars of Russia and Russian affairs. Dr. Aron is Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Thank you very much, Dr. Aron, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. I want to start off by asking you about the minerals deal because a lot is being talked about it. Certainly the White House seems to be playing it up. President Trump himself seems to be playing it up. What do we know about the broad contours of what's there in that deal and what will be signed between both President Trump and President Zelensky in a few hours' time?
This is one of the Trump mysteries. It's a bit of an obsession. And frankly, if you look at the broader context, it's putting the cart before the horse, very far ahead of the horse. And the problem here is that, of course, those minerals don't grow on trees and they don't lie on the surface. And to get to them, you need to spend billions of dollars. But remember, they are in a country that is still at war. We also know that 40% of those minerals are in the occupied Russian territories. So does President Trump believe that Russia is going to give up Donbass, Zaporizhia, and other areas where those metals are, or is he going to go to Russia? Now, Putin, of course, being very alert, jumped on that bandwagon, and he said, "Oh yes, we also have them." But so far, in Russian total exports, rare earth metals are 1/10 of 1%. So on top of that, as we know, the latest update, President Trump would not give security guarantees. So what kind of Western company is going to go and spend billions of dollars in a country that is, or commit to spending billions of dollars in a country that is still in war and for which the American president would not give security guarantees? So it is a bit bizarre, and we have not seen the details either.
So help us try and understand what is in it then for Trump to be so obsessed about this minerals deal. Of course, everybody agrees the big picture, the meta picture is, the wars of the future are going to be fought for these rare earth metals, these rare earth minerals. China apparently has a lot of them. So the meta picture seems to be that's where Trump is coming from. But without these security guarantees and, some of these really bizarre conditions that were part of the draft deal, which is being sort of circulated, $500 billion of revenue, 50% of all future revenue to go into a fund that the U.S. will manage. What's in it for Trump? And more importantly, what's in it for Zelensky? Why is he agreeing to sign the deal then?
Well, I have no connections at all, inside connections to this administration, never had. But my guess is that this is for domestic purposes. Trump put this war in a context of protecting American taxpayer, which, of course, again, very strange because if this peace deal is bad or does not hold, the U.S. is going to spend trillions of dollars, presumably trying to help to protect Europe, although we can talk about that later. It's for domestic purposes. Here I am. By the way, he completely exaggerated. The U.S. spent at best $120 billion, never close to $500 billion. We are going to get to the American taxpayer whatever was spent by the previous quote unquote bad administration on this war, which he says would not have happened if I were in the White House. So it's symbolic. I think it's solely for domestic purposes, given how hazy everything else is. Now, for Zelensky, I think it's easier to understand. Essentially, Trump is holding the deal over Kiev, over Ukraine, as a condition for continuing, although again, we don't know that yet, presumably continuing the assistance, both financial and most importantly, military, because the Europe could step into financial assistance nowhere near in terms of providing military hardware.
So break that down for us. So like you said, and this is, I think, the Kiel Institute's figure as well, that $120 billion have been spent by the U.S., of which more than $65 billion are military assistance. The U.S. has given all kinds of military equipment to Ukraine. If Trump decides tomorrow, and with him you never know, but if he decides tomorrow that, look, we're going to pull the plug on the funding, we're not going to fund Ukraine anymore, certainly the military part, can Ukraine continue to fight? Can Europe step up and meet that void?
The best estimate by the military experts I trust is that, and in fact, Ukraine said it. One of the advisors to Zelensky said it. Probably at best to the first half of this year. After that, they run out of missiles for their probably most effective weapon, which is a longer range missiles. Probably will start running out of artillery shells, and even though they appear to be sufficient now in their homemade drones, the connection systems, the very complicated and delicate guiding systems that the U.S. supplied, may also be in short order. So it could be rather dire.
So one of the contentions has always been, and Zelensky has been stressing on this, is the security guarantee. And understandably, from his point of view, you don't want to enable Putin to repeat what he did in 14 or in 22, to do it again, for him to feel emboldened. So that security guarantee is understandable. Trump has been repeating, and I think he did yesterday when he met the British Prime Minister as well, the very fact that we are in there, that is, American companies are in there, nobody will mess with us. That is a good enough security guarantee. Do you buy that? And what are the pitfalls in that strategy, if at all?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, he refused it so far 3 times. Maybe it's a magic number. He refused it originally when Zelensky said, we cannot accept this deal without security guarantees. He refused to provide security force when he spoke to French President Macron, and he refused it again when he spoke to the British Prime Minister. But this is a vicious circle. What American company is going to go in Ukraine, whether in the occupied part or unoccupied part, without security guarantees from the United States? I mean, as I said, before they get to the first deposit of rare earth metals, they would have to put upfront billions of dollars. So Trump knows this. And so my hope, and of course, he's already preemptively conceded so much to Russia, and we can talk about it if we have time, that this is one stick, not a carrot. He already dispensed with quite a few carrots for Putin. One stick that he holds over Putin. In other words, what I will provide the security guarantees, or maybe not provide security guarantees. But what could you give me to that? What could you give me in exchange for my not providing security guarantees? But again, it's a very odd way to negotiate.
But what can Putin give him?
Huh?
What can Putin give him if Trump makes good on his word that he's not going to give security guarantees to Ukraine?
Well, Putin, being very astute, have pocketed all those preemptive concessions that Trump gave him, and now apparently he unearthed from long moldy box the so-called Istanbul Agreement guarantees, which were concluded or negotiated while Ukraine was in terrible strait, literally months after the Russian invasion in 2014. And it includes essentially limited sovereignty for Ukraine. Ukraine essentially would have to disarm. Russia would have the veto over Ukraine's foreign policy, in effect, and Russia holds on to all the territory that it seized. So given all of that, presumably, I assume that Trump could probably say, well, how about one of those conditions? How about I have security guarantees, but solely for the peacekeeping force. You, in exchange, maybe negotiate with Ukraine and make a compromise on some of the territories that you seized. I'm just throwing this out, but this is one of the things that I hope for, because so far it was not a negotiation. It was the terms of Ukraine's surrender.
But tell me this, Dr. Aron, does this whole peacekeeping force, European or international peacekeeping force, do you reckon that Russia or Putin would agree to that? And do you see an international peacekeeping force being able to go into Ukraine and keep the peace?
You have two different questions with two different answers. Putin already said casually, it's nothing on paper, that yes, he will tolerate a peacekeeping force. Whether it will hold, look, what French, Danish, I don't know, Italian president or prime minister would agree to their soldiers being killed in Ukraine if Russia decides to resume its aggression? I think the general, of course, I don't think we have specifically EU peacekeeping forces, but the general record of UN peacekeeping forces is very bad. Everywhere, I mean, you take Kosovo, the war in Yugoslavia, you take the Middle East, they either, at the first shot, they either run away or they just let the aggressor through. Aggressor said, we'll not touch you if you let us through. So I think without US, as what Prime Minister of Britain called it, backstop, it's a dead letter.
So as we come to the concluding part, what are the broad contours you think this peace agreement or this ceasefire agreement is going to take shape in the form of? So clearly Ukraine will lose about 20% of its territory. Ukraine can forget about NATO membership. I think Trump reiterated that yesterday or the day before. That's in his worldview, in his mind, that's probably what started the war. And Ukraine gets no security guarantees either.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this is the broad contour?
This is, as I said, this is a very strange way to go into negotiations. This is already, like I said, if you want to negotiate the terms of Ukraine's defeat, the terms of Ukraine's surrender, that you just listed them. In other words, what does Ukraine get out of so-called peace agreement? I mean, they're already there. Russia already controls this. They're not members of NATO. There are no security guarantees. What's there to negotiate? I mean, the scary part of this whole peace negotiation, when Putin and Trump meet, Putin would say, "Don, look, this box is checked. This box is checked. This box is checked. Really, let's go have a cup of coffee." I mean, what is there to negotiate? Now, everybody, I think in the back of their mind, the desperate hope is this is so-called master of the deal, grandmaster of the deal, Trump. And frankly, you can't put it past Trump to say, oh, no, this is all for public consumption. Let's start from the clean sheet. Let's start from the clean list and page, Vladimir. Forget about all of this. Well, at that point, Putin could get up and leave. One thing we always have to keep in mind: Putin is going there not for peace but for victory, and to the extent that he's going to conclude any ceasefire, it's only if it guarantees him victory that he could sell at home. This is going to be a very strange, very tough, bizarre negotiation.
All right, and a final word again. Meta picture: Trump wants Russia back in the G7. Trump feels that, for 20, 30 years after the end of the Cold War, there was this whole myth-making about Russia being the enemy and wanting to crush Russia, so on and so forth. What's he getting at? Is he trying to get at that it's possible for the United States and Russia to have a normal relationship?
Look, during the Cold War, the U.S. had more or less, I wouldn't call it normal, defined relationship with mutual obligations with a totalitarian state, the Soviet Union. Putin is reviving, if not the totalitarian, that strongly authoritarian state, aggressive, imperialist, and the one that's not. He always says, we're not satisfied with the current condition of the world. We're not satisfied. We need a multipolar world, which, of course, is what China, his best friends, want as well. So the question is, what it is that Trump hopes to get out of this relationship. I mean, we can go back to the Cold War and say we're not going to nuke each other, which was the essence of our relationship with. But I don't think that's what Putin wants. I think Putin wants a significant revision of the post-Cold War world, and how Trump is going to resist that is a big question.
Okay, Dr. Leon Aron from the American Enterprise Institute, thank you very much for joining us and for your perspective. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.